Hey there, this is Andrea, and welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. I wanted to tell you a little story. There's this thing over my shoulder. I don't know if you can see it if you're watching the video, but I have this framed piece of paper on my desk, and I wanted to tell you about this paper because it was obviously important enough that I frame it, and it happens to be a note. This is a note that is very special to me because it helped validate my voice early on in my career. Perhaps you could say even before I had a career in this field. And it really encouraged me to move forward. The reason why I want to tell you about that is that we have a voice of influence training. And in this training, when we're talking to people about taking initiative, one of the things that we bring up is that there are reasons why some people take initiative and reasons why some people choose not to take initiative. Anybody can take initiative. Anybody can be proactive in looking for issues or problems they want to solve, things that they see that should change, and taking action on it. Anybody can do that. But the truth is that some people feel more apt to do that, more likely to do that than others. And that often has to do with not only our personalities and our strengths and that sort of thing, but also the experiences that we have. So if a little child, as they're growing up, their voice is validated as they grow and their parents take their opinions and concerns into consideration. They let their children know that they're considering things that they've talked about or that they're worried about or that they want or don't want. When those voices are validated at a very young age and continue to be so, maybe in school or various areas of the community, then that person has had this buildup of all kinds of great experiences that lead them to believe that it's okay for them and safe and exciting and important for them to speak up when they have a concern, for them to take initiative and be proactive when they see a problem that they want to solve. While it can also happen the opposite way, that a person builds up experiences or has key experiences along the way where maybe they did speak up or they took initiative in some area and their experience was that the person who is in charge or their parents or perhaps their manager got upset, put them in their place. Instead of validating their voice and their opinion and the fact that they have an opinion, the fact that they have done something proactive, instead of validating that, they chide them for doing that because maybe they didn't like the outcome. And it can be kind of complicated, right? I mean, you can have good experiences with your parents, but then have bad experiences in the world. And the opposite can be true as well. So one of the things that we want to promote when we're talking to companies and leaders about promoting a voice of influence culture is the validation of each other's voices. And this is what's interesting. Regardless of who you are and what kind of experiences you've had or not had, or your position in a company, there are still people who are in positions of leadership, CEOs, who want to know that their voice still matters. They want to know that they're being heard. They want to know if they're being understood. They need that validation, just like anybody else. It might take on a different form. It might be a lesser need as you grow older. There could be all kinds of things that would impact how important that is to you, but it's kind of amazing to me that everybody really does appreciate knowing that their voice matters. So in a training that I just recently did with a team, we were explaining this. I was explaining that whether or not you are proactive and take initiative often has to do with your experiences. And so you want to promote other people's voice. You want to promote a culture where other people are validated for what they bring to the table, for their perspective, for taking initiative. Even if you don't like the outcome, maybe you want to help them change the way that they approach it in the future. But the impulse to take initiative, that is something that we want to validate. All right. So back to my little story. So about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in a workshop/retreat kind of thing that was a week long, and it was with a psychologist and author who I had been following and whose books had had a tremendous impact on my personal life, on my spiritual life, on my approach to life. And I just had so much respect for him. So I went to this workshop, had a wonderful experience, came home, and I started to really dive into a topic that was really important to me, and that had to do with women in leadership. And it was something that I knew that this author had talked about a little bit, but hadn't talked about a lot, and certainly hadn't talked about it publicly. And so I really felt like I wanted to challenge him to actually speak up on this issue. And so I wrote him an email, sent it off, and didn't hear anything. Didn't hear anything, didn't hear anything. Well, I found out that some other people, like the next year, were going to be going to this same workshop that I had been to. And they actually stopped in my town where I live, and they had dinner with me. And I asked them if they would pass on this note to the author because he hadn't received my email, or I hadn't heard back from my email. And so I had typed it all out again, and asked him to consider talking about this topic. And so I sent it with them, and about a month later, I received in the mail this note that I have framed. In this note, he told me that he hadn't received my initial email, or at least didn't see it, that he had read one of the books that I had recommended and was reading the other one, that he received my challenge to speak more publicly about this issue and was going to be further considering it, and that my words, he literally said, your words have challenged me to continue to think about and figure out whether or not I'm going to say anything about this topic. And when I received that note, I felt so validated. I didn't know if I should challenge somebody who was much older than me to talk about something that is very difficult to talk about. It was in this particular context, it was a difficult conversation. And I didn't know if that was the right thing to do. I didn't know how he would receive that, if I would sound, too pushy or anything like that. I wondered, would it be okay if I actually was proactive and spoke up and shared my voice with somebody who I considered to be a leader, a thought leader in this area? And for him to say to me that my words had challenged him, that he actually took action on something that I had said. He actually read books on some about this topic and was considering them and was trying to decide what he thought. He didn't come back and tell me, Andrea, you were completely right. I have completely adjusted the way that I'm going to approach this topic and how much I'm going to speak about it, and so on. He did not do that. He let me know that I had made him think. He let me know that I had moved him in some way, that my words had caused him to consider something. He let me know that there was this sense of agency that I had, even with him. And to me, this was a very big deal. And it said to me that maybe my ideas are worth considering. Maybe my thoughts and my concerns are worth sharing. And that was an early indicator to me of what I should do with my life, of what I could do as a person who had ideas and thoughts that I felt probably should be heard, messages that probably I should speak up and try to share. By him sending me that note, it made a huge difference in my life. It's one of the reasons why I'm talking to you today. So, the three things that I think are really important when it comes to validating other people's voices. It could be somebody that you're mentoring. It could be a direct report. It could be your manager. It could be your CEO. You could be the CEO and it could be your colleague. It could be your spouse. It could be your child. You don't have to do what other people are telling you to do to validate that their opinion and perspective is important to you. You don't have to actually do everything that they tell you to do. I'm not asking that. I don't think we should expect that of other people. What we can do when we want to validate somebody's voice is we can, number one, listen. And I'm talking about the kind of listening where you look somebody in the eye and you really hear them. You don't just hear what they're saying, you listen for their intent. You look for what's behind their message, what they're really trying to communicate. Because sometimes people have a hard time saying what they really think or what they're trying to say. They don't know what words to say. So by listening, active listening, that also means asking good questions to really understand that person. So number one, listen. Number two, reflect back to them what they have said to you to validate that you have heard them, to say, I believe this is what you're saying. Am I correct? To let them know that you really did hear and you see them. That doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. You're saying, this is what you're saying. Am I hearing what you're saying? Is that correct? And a lot of times when I ask that question, people will tell me, oh, no, actually, I meant something different. So by asking them, is this what you mean? It gives them the opportunity to clarify things a little bit more. Because it could be that you misheard. It could be that they didn't really communicate well. But that's why we're talking about listening, active listening, reflecting back to make sure that they know that you've actually heard what they really wanted to say. And number three, describe the impact that that person's voice had on you. So, this gentleman, the person who wrote me that note, they let me know that they read books that I had recommended. They let me know that they were really considering what I had said. So what impact does somebody else have on you? What are they really trying to influence you to do? What are you willing to actually do to consider what they've said? If somebody's trying to impact a decision that you're making, it is so important that you first of all listen, that you reflect back what they're saying to make sure that you understand correctly, and that you describe to them the impact that their words have had on you and your decision-making process. Now, you may not decide to do what they asked you to do, but if you can say, I have taken time to consider what you have said, and I do have to think about other things as well. And as I put all those things together, I may be making a decision that is not what you had recommended, that is not in line with what you asked, but you still made me think, and I appreciate that. Or you gave me food for thought for the future. Or if somebody moves you, if their words move you and you actually do shift your opinion or change your mind based on what somebody said, let them know. There is no reason to hold tightly to your own competency in a situation like that. You don't have to be right about everything. If somebody else can help you see something a little differently and that changes your mind, the gift that you give that person back is the validation of their voice. Your words made an impact on me, and so I changed my mind. That is incredibly huge. That is such a gift to that person. And do you think that that person might share their ideas next time? Do you think they might challenge you to think differently in the future? Do you think they might be willing to bring their perspective? Oh, a lot more likely to do that if you have demonstrated and shown them that their voice matters to you, that they can move you. I really think that some leaders think that they have to be immovable, that they should be the fixed point for everyone else. That is not necessarily the case. Yes, I do think that leaders need to have a very clear perspective. It is good for leaders to have a clear perspective, but it should be one that can be influenced by others. And if it can't be influenced by others, then I would say that you shouldn't be a leader. So make yourself vulnerable to being moved by others. Have your very clear perspective, but take theirs in as well. And then validate their voice. Let them know that it mattered to you. This is how we're going to get people to engage more, to bring their best to work, to innovate and create and come up with better solutions to problems that you're facing. Validate other people's voices because their voice matters and they need to know it. If you're wanting to increase the voice of influence culture in your company, in your team, reach out. We have trainings, we have experiences, we have coaching, we have consulting that can help you to create that culture where every voice matters. Come to voiceofinfluence.net and hit that contact button because their voice matters and you want to help them make it matter more.